Hey guys, what's going on? I'm bringing breaking news from the New York Times, a formal news publication, as Andrew Klavan says. With this breaking news that apparently is completely news to me, how moderates are seizing the moment in the Democratic primary. Well, that's really funny because all I see is complete radical leftists, completely beyond the pale, making 2016 Democrats look moderate in comparison. I see them seizing total control of the primary and of their debates and the polls and everything like that. But we'll go into it and see the cognitive dissonance, that's what I meant to say, that Democrats have versus what's actually happening. That they think that all of these people are moderates when really they are completely utter radical communists. After spending months in anxious passivity, staking their hopes on Joe Biden and little else, moderate Democrats appear suddenly determined to fight for the control of their party in the 2020 elections. I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. They're moderate Democrats. They are so far and few between. Few and far between. Man, I really cannot talk. Words. These are jokes before noon. Anyway, there are hardly any moderate Democrats left in the Democratic Party. They have shifted so far to the left that the moderate Democrat voice has been completely drowned out because there are so few of them. Almost every single time I talk with Democrats, online or in person, they just spout the most batshit crazy, far left ideas that just 3 or 4 years ago would have been laughed out of existence. Now, I still laugh at them, obviously. But these ideas of total gun bans, assault weapons bans, healthcare for illegals, child care for all, UBI, all of these ideas would have been laughed at just a few years ago. There are no more Bill Clintons in the Democratic primary. They never talk about him. When they do, it's usually not very positive. Bernie in 2016 was the most radical Democrat I've ever seen in my entire life. He was so fucking batshit crazy. So far communist, like straight up Russian, Soviet Union communist. Let's bring in the Bolshevik Revolution and kill the proletariat and seize the means of production. Like he said all of those things unironically. I'm not putting words in his mouth. And now that's moderate compared to the shit they're saying now. But let's go into it, shall I don't want to monologue too much on just the first sentence of the article. The shift in attitude has come in fits and starts over the last few weeks, seemingly more as an organic turn in the political season than as a product of coordinated action by party leaders. No, it's not. The DNC is controlling everything. They decide who gets to talk more in the debates versus who talk less. What a surprise that Biden, Warren, and Sanders get all of these questions and all of this amount of talk, while Yang and Gabbard get what did Yang get, 3 minutes in the first debate? I hate his guts. I hate that dude. He's so fucking stupid. But I believe that everyone should get an equal amount of time to talk. It's so rigged. When Tulsi begins to jump on Warren about something, they conveniently cut to a commercial break. I mean, all of this coordinated crap.
Understand the importance of our national security. I am prepared to do this job, to fulfill this responsibility as Commander-in-Chief on day one. I'd like to ask our other candidates this question. I'd like to start with Senator Warren. What her experience and background is.
I'm sorry, thank you. We're going to take another break now. The CNN New York Times debate live from Otterbein University here in Ohio. We'll be back in just a few moments.
It's not organic at all. It's completely coordinating action, and that's why he's addressing this, because he's trying to address the criticism of DNC that they're just coordinating everything and not allowing organic what Democrats truly want. The DNC, you can see when they move from candidate to candidate on who they want to win, then suddenly the news talk totally different. Remember how the news was propping up Kamala Harris just a few months ago? She was the one. She was the star. She had the intersectionality. She was going to beat Trump. She was our girl, whatever. And then suddenly they moved over to Biden. And then Kamala dropped. And then Biden was going strong. And then he had all those gaffes. And then his thing about his son in the Ukraine happened. And he is incoordinate. That's ironic because I can't talk today. inarticulate as fuck. He makes me look articulate. That's how bad he is. So they propped him up a bit until all that crap happened, and then they moved over to Warren, and now they're trying to bump Warren up a bit. No screensaver. And now all the news media is positive about Warren, and they're not talking about Biden that much. That's not organic at all. That is completely coordinated. But each assertive act has seemed to build on the one before, starting with the debate stage clash last month over Medicare for All, and culminating in recent days with the entry of two moderate candidates in the primary, Bloomberg and Patrick. In a gentle warning from former President Barack Obama that Democrats should not overestimate voters' appetite for drastic change. Okay, now here's the problem right off the bat. Bloomberg is not moderate whatsoever.
You've made a lot of calls for bipartisanship, but you're a leading voice in the anti-gun movement, which puts you immediately at odds with a lot of Republicans. You spent a lot of money, but Congress hasn't taken up any major gun control measures at a national level since Sandy Hook. So do you feel like your efforts have been effective?
What I have asked for, and most of my friends who have asked for, are background checks. We shouldn't be selling guns to minors, to people with psychiatric problems, or people with criminal records. Other than that, the Second Amendment gives you the right to own weapons, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the Constitution. We're not going to change it. I think maybe automatic weapons don't make a lot of sense, but if you want to buy a gun and go through the background check process, that's what the law lets you do. And I'm not in favor of taking that away one bit. In fact, I had an NRA member came up to me yesterday and said, look, I disagree with you on guns, but let me tell you, I and all my friends are going to vote for you. I still think that there is reasonable restrictions you can put on it, who you sell guns to, and that's what I'm in favor of.
Bloomberg is not moderate at all. Bloomberg is so radically anti-Second Amendment. He wants to disarm all Americans. That alone puts him in the radical category. He's a big Democrat, New Yorker. He believes all the status quo when it comes to Democrats. We're talking about taking away your freedom of speech, taking away your bear arms. He supported the NDA, the Patriot Act, all that crap. That's not moderate at all. I don't even know Devil Patrick, so I'm not going to comment on him. But I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark and say that he's not moderate because no other Democratic candidate is moderate. The only ones that come close is Tulsi Gabbard. But again, her record and her view on gun rights, that alone puts her way over the edge into the radical category. You can't say, I want to take away millions of guns that people use to defend themselves literally millions of times every single year, and that's going to be radical no matter what. That has been radical throughout all of human history when it comes to our culture and how we view weapons, and that's especially radical today. It's always been radical. Just like throughout human history, stopping someone from criticizing the government or freedom of speech, that has always been radical. That has always been totalitarian. That has always been fascist. That's just how we view values. That is how we have built our culture and how we understand things. Most convincing to some Democrats may be the off-year elections this month in Kentucky and Louisiana, where moderate to conservative Democrats prevailed in governor's races that President Trump worked strenuously to win for his party. The victories bolster the argument advanced by some leading Democrats that the party could peel away some of the Mr. Trump supporters in 2020 by avoiding the litmus test battles and courting the political middle. Again, I've seen no evidence of this. I've seen no evidence that Democrats are trying to court the political middle. What do they call it? Political middle. First of all, that demographic is shrinking by the day as more and more people go radical to the left or radical to the right. And second of all, when Democrats are trying to outdo each other constantly with batshit crazy ideas like Medicare for illegals, doing away with private health insurance, taking away all guns, like quadrupling the amount of money that the federal government spends in a year with like UBI, for example, that's not courting the political middle. That is, for ordinary people looking at that, they're just like, are you fucking kidding me? You expect me to vote for that? You expect me to give you the time of day for a minute? No, you're fucking retarded. I'm not, like, that's why the people's poll numbers, the Democrats that are leading, Biden, Warren, and Sanders, are so low when it comes to moderates. Blah, 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 blah. For months, the Democratic race was defined in terms of which candidates could promise the most daring policy reforms, a contest to which Mr. Biden was struggling to keep pace with Warren and Bernie Sanders. That's like I just said, when Warren's talking about child care for all and Bernie Sanders is talking about Medicare for all and doing with private health insurance and Biden's talking about gun control, that's exactly what I just said. That's exactly what I just said. This is how he acts like this is in the past. Like, oh, before the Democratic race was defined in terms which the candidate was promised the most daring policy reforms. No, that's what's going on right now, dude. What are you talking about? Did you stop paying attention to the news months ago? I mean, this is still going on. There's nothing different. He's trying to gaslight people is what he's trying to do. There's this utter stupidity going on in Democratic primary right now with their policy ideas. He's trying to say, oh, that's all in the past. No, we're moderate, man. Now we're cool. We're trying to fix things, whatever. It's like, no. No, I have not seen any evidence of this. I'm going through this article, and still you have not shown a single example in which Democrats have proposed moderate policy ideas or trying to court the moderate at all. You've said that's the premise of your article, and I haven't seen any evidence of that. Let's keep going, see if we can find something. Now, the primary has been an increasingly jumbled contest shaped by Democrats' competing appetites for visionary ideas, tactical realism, and sheer political novelty. No, it's not. It's jumbled by pure fucking stupidity. That's what it's jumbled by. And they're competing appetites for who can take away the most amount of your rights, who can drive up the debt the most, and who can just fuck up the country in general the most. That's what it's That's what the three competing things are, not visionary ideas and tactical realism. Oh, jeez, I'm making me laugh so much from coughing. That's hilarious. That's what you think the primary is being jumbled by, and that's what you think the competing appetites? That's amazing. Butt plug of South Bend, Indiana, appears to be harnessing these tensions to his advantage, where the first time he emerged as a clear frontrunner in a poll. No, he's not. Where? How? Give me tangible evidence that he's harnessing these tensions. That is non-tangible. That's not tangible. You can't harness tension. Give me an example of that. No example. If Buttplug wanted to actually harness those tensions, he would say, you know what, my other political rivals are proposing god-awful, objectively horrible policies. Let me give you a policy proposal of moderate ideas that would actually fix the country, blah, blah, and he would go into it, whatever. That would be an example of harnessing tensions. But Buttplug's not doing that. He's just as radical as the other ones. He still wants massive government spending, massive bloating of the government, massive government control over lots of the economy and over your lives, taking away your rights. Like, just across the board, he's exactly the same. So, again, I don't know what this guy's talking about. He gives no examples. In Nevada, where a dozen candidates were gathered for the state's party's First in the West dinner, blah, 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 blah. Okay, they said how this Representative Tina Titus was holding off your victories as a reason for optimism, that who the fuck cares what this person says has nothing to do with the race. Oh my god, blah, 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 blah. He keeps on going into how Democrats won state elections. Again, that has nothing to do with the Democratic presidential primary. Many Democratic voters still appear determined to find a Goldilocks-like option in the race, a candidate who both generates excitement and soothes concern about the general election. Someone who promises sweeping change but appears capable of winning Republican votes. With the way the Democratic base views policy issues, there is no way you can do both of that. There is no way that they can promise the sweeping change that they say that they want through polls and win Republican votes. When you say, I'm going to take away your freedom of speech, I'm going to attack you for being a white Christian male, I'm going to take away your guns, I'm going to tax you into oblivion, I'm going to give your money to illegals who don't work, I want open borders, I want the Green New Deal, all this stuff, that's the sweeping change that Democrats want. That is not going to win a single Republican vote, guarantee you. There's just no way. There's no way that both of those things could be true. Miss Warren climbed in the polls. Wait, she's married. Why didn't she misses? Climbed in the polls for months on the strength of a reform message and a mastery of policy. What? In what world does Warren have a mastery of policy? Holy shit, this guy's delusional. I want whatever he's smoking. This is hilarious. I'm turning red. I'm laughing so much. A mastery of policy. When Buttplug asked her how she's going to pay for her healthcare plan, And she just like rambled off into nothing and not answered the question. And then Buttplug immediately said, see, this is why people hate politicians, because you give a yes or no question and you don't get a yes or no answer.
Mayor Buttigieg, you say Senator Warren has been, quote, evasive about how she's going to pay for Medicare for all. What's your response?
Well, we heard it tonight, a yes or no question that didn't get a yes or no answer. Look, this is why people here in the Midwest are so frustrated with Washington in general and Capitol Hill in particular. Your signature, Senator, is to have a plan for everything, except this. No plan has been laid out to explain how a multi-trillion-dollar hole in this Medicare for All plan that Senator Warren is putting forward is supposed to get filled in.
Well, this is what he's talking about. Her poll numbers have slipped recently amid intense scrutiny of her health care plans. How is just asking how you're going to pay for something, how is that intense scrutiny of your plan? That is the most basic question a politician should be able to answer about their policy proposals. That is completely, utterly basic. That is like a 0.5 out of 10 when it comes to scrutiny of a plan. But Miss Warren is so fragile, she gets agitated so easily, and she sucks at answering questions. She sucks at debates, and she doesn't know anything what she's talking about. That just a simple question throws her off the loop, and she goes into on a random tangent. It's nothing to do with anything. That's how most Democrats are when it comes to when I ask about their policy proposals. I ask them just simple questions about, well, why do you believe this? This policy has unintended consequences of A, B, and C. What are you going to do about that? Or, you know, they tried this policy in this example, it didn't work. How do you, like, what do you think about that? Like, just really basic level questions, and they just wig the fuck out and call me racist, sexist, homophobic. I hate minorities, I hate immigrants, blah, blah, because I dare question their policy. I'm just like, I'm just asking questions. But asking questions is really bad in this time and age. How dare you ask questions? If you ask questions, that means you don't support me and you hate me and I hate you and you should die. Just vote for my policies without questioning them. That's the only way that you can appear not a racist, hateful bigot. Ms. Warren attempted to allay, however you say that word, voters' reservations on that front in recent weeks by pledging not to raise middle-class taxes to pay for her plans. There's no way with the amount of spending as she is proposing, with the policies she's proposing, there is no way she cannot raise taxes in the middle class. She could tax the upper class at 100% of their wealth, literally take every single cent that they make. It still wouldn't be able to pay enough for the policies she is proposing. That's the problem that these Democrats don't understand. When you put together all of the policies that they are proposing, like child care for all, Medicare for all, health care for illegals, Green New Deal, open borders, UBI, like whatever, that's just 7 off the top of my head I could think of when it comes to massive spending. That literally quadruples the amount of money that the government's spending. And the government is already spending a buttload of money, an astronomical amount of money as it is. We're already $32 trillion in debt with the amount of money we're spending now. You want to quadruple that? That's a surefire way to just, again, quadruple the national debt in just years. And we're going to crash on our loans even faster than the current spending. Like, it's just not doable. That's like, hypothetically, I don't know, I'm just using basic numbers here. You bring in $500 a month and you're spending $1,000 a month. So every year you're losing, every month you're losing $500. You're like, you know what, I actually want to spend $4,000 a year. It's like, okay, so you're going to tax people more, so you're going to bring $1,000. You're still only bringing in $1,000 and spending $4,000. Even if you taxed everyone all their wealth, you still would only bring in $3,000. You still would be losing $1,000 a month. Now it's really dumbed down. Obviously, the federal budget is much more complicated than that. But that's the problem. They're like, we're going to massively increase spending, but we're going to do all these taxes, and it's going to be okay. It's like, no, it's not. There's just not enough money. Both Warren and Sanders remain among the best positioned candidates in the primary election, and they're both radical and dumb as fuck. Again, you have not convinced me at all that moderates, where is this proof of moderates? Let's go faster down this article here. Oh, Miss Warren dismissed modest policies as a nibble here and a nibble there, and both are polling at the top of the pack. How can you say that moderates are taking control of the party when the people that you admit are the best positioned candidates in the primary say that modest policies just aren't good enough? Ms. Sanders said tinkering around the edges just won't do what needs to be done. That's why they're proposing their giant policy proposals. Both are actively working to persuade voters that their approach is a better bet in the general election, including by appealing to voters who feel alienated from the political system. If the best Democrats can offer is business as usual after Donald Trump, then Democrats will lose. That's what you're doing. You're doing the exact same thing you did in 2016, just more radical, and that's why Trump's going to win in 2020. I can't believe how you can't see this. Look at this fucking idiot, Andrea Griffin. I was a little skeptical of the plan for everything, but she had a pretty good grasp on the major issues, and I kind of think she might be able to get it done. She has a grasp on the major issues? Are you fucking kidding me? Miss Griffin was also curious about Mr. Buttplug. I'm sure you are. But essentially ruled out Mr. Biden, explaining, I think America is not ready to go back to business as usual. When have we not gone back to business as usual? The main political parties have agreed on the biggest policy issues for decades and decades and decades, and that's why nothing changes and everything gets worse. What are you talking about? Mayor John Cranley of Cincinnati, a moderate Democrat, I'm sure you are. Again, you have not defined any of your terms about what moderate means. I have yet to see a moderate Democrat or a moderate Democratic policy proposal in this entire article. A moderate Democrat who supports Mr. Buttplug says he saw a shift towards Mr. Buttplug. Really? You shifted towards Mr. Buttplug? Okay. As a function of voters' intense concern about defeating Mr. Trump, I think it's clear Democrats are focused on winning, Mr. Cranley said. Are you kidding me? They are putting forth the worst candidates I have ever seen and proposing the most batshit crazy, horrible policies that you could possibly think of. How can you say that they're focused on winning? If you want to be focused on winning, why don't you nominate Gabbard, who, doesn't want massive spending, at least not compared to the other ones, doesn't want to get involved in wars at all, wants to bring troops home, wants to cut back on military spending, whatever. That would be your way to win. That she could beat President Trump easily, but you don't, do you? You don't. Nowhere in this article to talk about Gabbard. In an article about moderate Democrats, the one Democrat that comes close to being moderate, Gabbard, is never mentioned in this article at all. Wow, that's a surprise. Didn't see that one coming. To win there, Mr. Cranley said, you can't have someone who is to the far left in some of these issues. You support Buttplug. He is far left. Now, I'm going to end here. This is the problem here with the Democratic Party. Let's take a hypothetical situation in an alternate universe where we live in a society like a demonic society where we have sacrificial rituals, killing babies, pouring blood on people, cutting each other to do rituals, whatever. Let's just hypothetically say that was how our society ran. To us, that is insane, radically insane, radical, just not okay in every sense of the word, completely crazy, whatever. But to someone who lived in that society all their lives, they view that as completely normal. To them, they're moderate. They do what everyone else does. They do what our society has been doing for years. There's nothing wrong with what they do. It's just what we do. They give justifications for the rituals, for the human sacrifices, for the murder. It's completely normal for them. And they would view someone like us who came in from our dimension, they would view us as radical, as insane, whatever. That's the problem with the Democrats. They live in that alternate dimension where taking away people's guns is completely normal, where massive government spending, quadrupling the national debt is completely normal. Taking away your freedom of speech is completely normal. Taking away your privacy, just getting rid of the Fourth Amendment in general, completely normal. If that's what it takes to beat terrorism, yep, we're good with NDA, we're good with the Patriot Act, we're good with coming in with dozens of wars, troops across the world, whatever. All of that is completely normal. All of that we have been doing for decades. That's the society that people have grown up with. And they're like, this is normal. This is what I want. But historically, that is not what we have been doing. We have veered so far to the left that people who were born in this far left society view it as normal, with people who, like me, who have studied history, studied what we have objectively, historically done, what has historically worked in this country and what historically has not. What ideas have crashed nations and what ideas have made nations awesome. I'm over here in moderate town saying, you guys are not moderate. None of you guys are moderate. They see me as the radical because I'm so far to the right. From their position, from the far left, I'm the radical. I'm the crazy person. They're the normal people. Everyone in their bubble, their democratic, radical, communist bubble, they're the normal ones. They're the ones they grew up with for decades and decades. And that's the whole issue with this article. They view themselves as moderate when they are so radical, so insane, so heartless, so destructive with their ideas. But they view that as normal because that's what they've been brainwashed with. That's their bubble that they have been living in for a very, very long time. And that is why Alexander Burns is completely wrong that moderates are not seizing jack shit in the Democratic primary.